Well, I think it's already been triggered personally, because after I posted that market crash, the S&P 500.
And this is about what really is financial education. As I always say, what the school teach you about money, the answer is.
Cash Flow Quadrant Book Summary, Robert Kiyosaki. Explained for today. We've all been told to get a job, save money, get out of debt, invest for the long term, and diversify. But according to the #1 financial author in the world who we'll be discussing today, that advice is flawed. When it comes to writing books that can change anyone's financial fortunes, no one really gets between the lines like Robert Kiyosaki does. The 74-year-old American investor, businessman, author, motivational speaker, and financial commentator is famous for his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But the follow-up, Cash Flow Quadrant, is another jewel read. Kiyosaki has become one of the most prominent names associated with self-help and life coaching, especially in regards to financial advice. Cash Flow Quadrant explains, among other things, how some of the brightest graduates end up working for college dropouts. If you want to know more about this book, I suggest you stick with me till the end, because in this video, I will show you the best financial lessons from the book Cash Flow Quadrant. But before we get going, in the comments below, with a yes or no, tell me, have you ever read any of Robert Kiyosaki's books? For now, let's get down to it. Rich always fascinates people. The fact that 5% of the population holds 95% of the total wealth is really captivating. What engages people more is why only a certain group of people are able to become rich. There's a particular group of people who achieve financial freedom in their 30s. On the other hand, many people never enjoy a prosperous life, no matter how much hard work they do. Why does this happen? The answer is amazingly described in Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad's Cash Flow Quadrant. Our working society is broadly divided into 4 kinds of people, depending on the work they perform. They are employee, they have a job, basically they work for someone. Self-employed, they own the job. Business owners, they own a system. Investors, they make their money work for them. Each quadrant has its own advantages and disadvantages. Moreover, our society needs all kinds of these people to work efficiently. The quadrant you belong to depends on where you acquire most of your income. Either you're an employee, a small business owner or self-employed, a big business owner, or an investor. Let's find out more about each of them. Number 1, the employee. Almost everyone begins their working lives as an employee. That is to say, someone who actively trades their time for money while working for a business or other entity. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, as long as you realize why you're doing it. Many entrepreneurs spend time as an employee as they work to learn, not to earn, and then transition those skills into another quadrant. Employees are at a significant risk should their employer terminate their job or if the company went under. They're also subject to high levels of income tax and don't really get tax breaks. The employee wants financial security. They seek the safety of a long-term contractual agreement. Kiyosaki describes the word secure as being a response to fear. Employees look for financial success through climbing the corporate ladder. They work in someone else's system to earn money. A typical employee will say something like, "I'm looking for a secure job with nice colleagues and great benefits." Most people are in the employee quadrant because they're programmed to be from childhood. They're told from a young age to work hard and be careful with their money. That said, children are taught not to take financial risks. Children are also not taught about starting their own business or investing. You can become rich in this quadrant, but it's tough. Despite the purpose of this book, there are still some pros of being an employee. Firstly, there's a reduced financial uncertainty. Paid vacation and health insurance are also often included. That said, if you're a successful employee, you often have less free time. Your performance is usually higher than the salary you gain. With the other quadrants, you're generally paid according to your performance. This isn't the case for employees. Number 2, the small business owner or self-employed. The self-employed is a variant of the employee, someone who's working for themselves. The self-employed can be thought of as the freelancers or consultants of the working industry. They still sell their time for money. However, they may move freely between projects and contracts as they please. Being self-employed can be brutal in a recession, as it can be very difficult to secure contracts, and you're still subject to the whim of your employers. Those who are self-employed are still subject to high income taxes, but have more scope for tax breaks, as they can offset their working costs against their income. Small business owners are placed in this category when they don't employ anyone else. The small business owner or self-employed strives for control. Kiyosaki calls this group the do-it-yourselfers. These people want to be their boss. Unlike the employee, a self-employed person responds to fear by taking control, not seeking security. They gain financial success by becoming highly specialized in a demanding field. A typical small business owner will say something like, "I'm looking for a job where I can be compensated well for my skills and time. I want to be in charge." They're hardcore perfectionists. It isn't about the money for this group. Money is a bonus, but what they want is independence. Self-employed people have to devote more time to their work if they want to earn more. Their income is directly dependent on how much work they can do. So you can say that self-employed people's time is money. Being a small business owner has benefits when compared to an employee. For example, you have control over your business's direction. That said, it's less secure, and you might even lose money. There are no benefits of being a small business owner over being a big business owner or investor. Self-employed is the riskiest quadrant. 9 out of 10 small businesses fail within the first 5 years. The main reasons for small business failure are insufficient experience and capital. Number 3, the big business owner. The business owner is mostly someone who has progressed from being self-employed to employing others. By definition, a business will have employees. Someone who has taken the skills that they worked to learn and used them to create a business will most certainly always experience significant advantages over workers from the first 2 quadrants. Business owners will usually earn more, having more control over the company's direction and implementing changing practices, along with finding creative ways to avoid taxes, such as through government incentives and asset write-offs. Business owners often work very long hours initially to create a successful business, and then only start to reap the lifestyle rewards and benefits by outsourcing and hiring their employees. Even then, it's far from passive. The big business owner strives for freedom. They gain financial success through creating a profitable business system. A typical big business owner will say something like, "I'm looking for people that are smarter than me to run my business for me." As a big business owner, you can have time-based and financial freedom quite quickly. Also, a more significant proportion of your profits go to you compared to small businesses. But as with any business, there's always the possibility you lose money. Being a big business owner also takes a different and broader set of skills than being an investor. For example, you have to lead effectively. The big business owner quadrant is one of the best quadrants for becoming rich. This group of people owns the system or process where people work for them. Number 4, the investor. Investors form the final quadrant and consist of those who are typically investing in profitable assets such as business, private or publicly listed shares, and property. Investors receive an income purely by virtue of their investments. Their money is put to work and makes more money. Investors are needed to stimulate growth in the economy and provide businesses with access to capital when they need it. In return, they're often paid a dividend or rewarded with share growth over time. The goal is to become an investor and reap the benefit of the passive income it produces. The investor also strives for freedom. Unlike the big business owner, the investor gains financial success from allocating money where the money has the highest expected return. They make money with money. A typical investor will say something like, "I'm looking for a place where my money can work for me in the most profitable way." An investor does not have to work, as their money works for them. To become genuinely wealthy, you one day have to reach this quadrant. Getting an education or saving money in a retirement plan are not investments that belong in this quadrant. Instead, this quadrant is about investments that generate income on an ongoing basis. You can't jump into the investor quadrant without being successful in one of the 3 other quadrants. You can achieve financial freedom very quickly as an investor. You have all the strengths of being a big business without the limitations. You can also build a passive income stream. The only limitation of being an investor is financial uncertainty. Those are the cash flow quadrants as explained by the celebrated author. Kiyosaki goes ahead and advises that real investors don't just park their money. Instead, they move their money. This approach is called the velocity of money. A top investor is always moving their money acquiring new assets and moving on to the next up-and-coming asset. Doing what everybody else does will not make you rich. Common sense is uncommon when it comes to money. Working hard also won't make you rich. The hardest workers are not the wealthiest people in the world. To become rich, you need to think independently. People focus too much on what they have to do rather than what they should be. It's essential to set goals continually. Additionally, Kiyosaki states the Cash Flow Quadrant is all about being, not doing. You should be aiming to strengthen your thoughts so that you can take the appropriate actions. Once you are being and doing, you can then become financially free. Kiyosaki also explains the most significant cause of the financial struggle. This is the fear of losing money. We learn at school how to pass exams, but we're not emotionally prepared to take financial risks. This is why few teachers are rich. They're working in an environment that encourages people to be safe and secure. In a nutshell, Cash Flow Quadrant argues that moving away from the employee quadrant is essential for wealth acquisition. Most people assume they can become wealthy by working hard. The reality is that employees never receive the amount of money their work deserves. So the only way to align your effort with the money you receive is to become a business owner. Start with small investments and grow towards bigger ones. If you adopt this approach, you can start benefiting from other people's time and money. And that's it from us today. Which side of the cash flow quadrant should you be? Let us know in the comments below.